U.S. Coast Guard says it's actively pursuing a third ship off the coast of Venezuela. This comes just a day after the U.S. seized another oil tanker, further escalating tensions between the two countries. Now Venezuela is accusing the U.S. of theft and hijacking. With more on all of this, I want to bring in senior national policy reporter Anne Flaherty. Also with us, ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy. Thank you both for joining me this morning. And I want to start with you. What is the latest on the Coast Guard's pursuit of this third ship?
Stephanie, not a lot of answers at this hour. So what we know is that there seems to be some kind of chase underway in the Atlantic Ocean. We know that a U.S. official told reporters yesterday that they had identified this vessel. We don't know exactly what it is, an oil tanker, but that it is, the Coast Guard signaled that it wanted to board, that it believed it had a judicial warrant to pull it over to seize this vessel. But of course, we've not gotten any updates. So a lot of questions about what happens next. And of course, what are the rules of engagement here for the U.S. if they try to stop this vessel, if it does not stop?
Right. And the tanker involved in Saturday's operation was not on any sanctions list. Is that right? Well, what more are you learning about that particular mission?
Yeah, so there are two different vessels that officials were talking about over the weekend. The one on Saturday, there is a question about whether or not it was indeed on the sanctions list. That vessel was boarded by the Coast Guard. We saw video released by the Homeland Security Department of Coast Guard teams rappelling down from helicopters, wearing tactical gear, carrying guns, boarding that vessel, taking control of it. That is the second vessel that the U.S. has taken control of just this month. We have another one that's already in a U.S. port in Texas. But of course, questions now about the second vessel and then this third one that the U.S. doesn't seem to have control of yet.
And Mick, I want to bring you into this conversation. As you know, the administration has faced a lot of criticism when it comes to these seizures. Senator Rand Paul on Sunday criticized President Trump's military mission off Venezuela's coast, calling the multiple seizures, quote, a provocation and a prelude to war. How significant are these seizures, and could they be setting the stage for war?
Well, Stephanie, if it's a full blockade of a country, then that is specifically called an act of war. But that might be, in many ways, what the administration intends. They want to put a lot of pressure on Maduro so that he leaves, which would technically be a regime change. He isn't the recognized government, but he is in power. The regime gets around 90% of their fuel, or excuse me, their funds from the selling of fuel. So blocking this could have a significant effect. It could put more pressure on Maduro to step down voluntarily, which is, I think, the point of this blockade and one of the reasons why we have this major naval power in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and like you just said, this is the lifeblood of Venezuela's economy, their oil. So how do you expect Venezuela to respond?
They're going to do everything they can to try to get ships in that aren't on the sanction list. They, of course, have ways of hiding themselves, putting up different flags, changing the names, which is one of the reasons when Anne was talking about why it's difficult to actually determine whether the vessel is on the sanction list. But they'll do that. But if the U.S. puts enough pressure, it will be very difficult for them to keep up with their needs to fund their government and, of course, keep themselves in power. That's going to require essentially paying people off. So it's a Herculean effort because it is a major coastline, 1,700 miles. By comparison, California is 1,300 miles. So it would be a significant military effort. But if it does succeed, it will have a significant effect on the regime's ability to stay in power.
And Anne, obviously these actions just happened over the weekend. What are you watching out for next?
Well, of course, the big question is how far President Trump will go. And of course, he's threatened land attacks inside Venezuela, but he's threatened them now for several weeks at a time. So, you know, we've seen these boat strikes since September 2nd. There's been more than 24 of these strikes against suspected drug smuggling vessels. You have these actions by the Coast Guard against the oil tankers. The question is, how far will he go? How soon will he move? And everybody, of course, is watching Maduro and whether or not he will step down. Stephanie.
All right, we will see what happens. Thank you both, Anne Flaherty and Mick Mulroy. Appreciate your time.